Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now
welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking Week 5 waiver wire. We're going to jump right into this thing, give you some waiver wire pickups to head into Week 5 if you're scrambling, if you've had injuries and players you're going to have to go pick up here. So I will start us off, Jeff. I think the top name is probably going to be Damien Williams this week for the Bears, because David Montgomery looked like it could be a potentially serious knee injury. Don't love to see it, but if that's the case, obviously Damien Williams is going to step in, and he's a capable running back, I would say. So Damien Williams is definitely going to be an option. There should be the number one pickup, which if you're telling me Damien Williams is the number one pickup next week, probably not a great week, but here we are, right? If you need a running back, if you lost David Montgomery, you probably do need to go pick up Damien Williams. And yeah, there's no one else there yet, right? Tariq Cohen's not back yet. He won't be back till week 7. It's going to be Damien Williams for at least a few weeks for sure. And then until Cohen comes back and helps if Montgomery's out for a long period of time. So Damien Williams, are you feeling excited about this one?
I feel okay about it. I think that they're going to use him in a similar way that they used Montgomery if he is out. Yeah. So I have no reason not to believe that he won't be able to be used in the lineup.
For sure. I think it's definitely if they play him and he gets all the volume like Montgomery was going to get, he's going to be fine. He had good moments with Kansas City a few years back, right? That stretch at the end of that season, he actually won some fantasy championships, I think, for some people there. I think in our league that year, he won a fantasy championship for somebody, and he's definitely a good option. So Damien Williams should be the number one pickup for this upcoming week. But at running back, that's about it for me. That's how, like, it's so weak at running back. There's not much else that's out there. The other name that you can even talk about at running back is going to be, I mean, if we're looking like 40% and under, right, is Kenny Gainwell. Just because of the volume he's getting, the work he's getting with Eagles, he's getting some, but again, he's not the main guy there, and it's going to be sporadic. So he's about the next option if you're looking at this 40% and under mark of players to go pick up. It's Kenny Gainwell, and yeah, and then one other, Latavius Murray. He's still under 40%, right? So Latavius Murray, it didn't look great this past week, but that can change. It's a good offense. Latavius Murray is still capable. So Latavius Murray should be looked at as an option to pick up as well if you're desperate and you need some players to pick up.
He's getting enough carries right now, and no one else in that backfield has really stood out. So yeah, he's still a guy that would be worth it if you want to throw him on your bench. But yeah, I mean, that really is it as far as running back goes. There's no one. I mean, even Cordero Patterson, who we talked about a few weeks back now, or a couple weeks back, I mean, he's already up at near 73% owned. Obviously, if he, for whatever reason, is not owned in your league, that would be obviously go for him. But, we don't talk about 73 is a huge percentage of ownage. But who knows? He's still kind of a rising star in the last few weeks. So maybe people missed him in your league.
Yeah, but we're cutting ourselves off at 40%. It's it becomes a little more ugly for the pickups, because if you go look at receiver, if you went, I don't have a lot either. So if you go to like the 40 to 50%, if you go under 50%, it gives me like 2 names. So I'll just bring those out there because they're under 50% owned, or maybe a bunch of names. You got Darnell Mooney still out there. He's owned currently in 41% of leagues. So he's just barely over our threshold, but I want to throw him out there. He had a good week this past week. I've seen him dropped a lot of places, but he's still involved. Like, that offense hasn't been great, but he had 5 catches in week 1. He had 6 in week 2. He had 5 this past week. He's had 7 targets, 8 targets, 4 targets, 7 targets. It's not amazing, but if you need a player, Darnell Mooney, I still feel good about him. But the other guy who's owned currently in 44% of leagues is Emmanuel Sanders. So Emmanuel Sanders had now 2 weeks in a row where he's had 5 catches. Last week was 5 for 94 and 2 touchdowns. This week he doesn't get the touchdowns, but it's 5 for 74. And his targets too, 8 targets, then 6, 6, 6. He is definitely involved in that offense in Buffalo as well. So just throw those 2 names out there that are just over that 40% mark of guys that you could look at, because I'll be honest, after that, then it goes to Jamison Crowder is the one name under 40%. And you just have to go for him, right? You have to talk about him.
Yeah.
This is what he does when he plays. He hasn't played the first 3 weeks, right? He comes back and 7 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. That's just what Jamison Crowder does. 9 targets. I feel like that's the same stat line every time.
Yeah, he is. He's a solid ad. You can throw him in your lineup and feel okay about it, even though he's on a team you don't really want to play, but still he's okay. And if I'm going wide receiver, I do have 3 more guys I want to mention, and these guys are, I think the guys that Craig mentioned are people that you could actually use right now. The ones I'm gonna are kind of wait and see, but they're high upside, and those guys are going to be, number one is going to be Kadarius Toney. Right now, he's only owned in 3.2% of leagues. He passed the eye test. We talked about it in our past podcast. He looked pretty good. I think he's going to get a bunch of work this year. I don't know what that's going to turn into, but I'm really excited to find out. The other guy is going to be Josh Gordon. This one is kind of more of a Hail Mary, but right now people have talked about how he looks good. He's going to be on Kansas City. He is a freak of nature when he is playing good football. So he would be worth throwing on your bench. And then finally, the other guy is going to be Rashad Bateman of Baltimore. He's owned currently in 12.7% of ESPN leagues, and he's about to come off the IR. Hopefully, I mean, once again, you're not putting him in your lineup, and unless he breaks out immediately, you won't for a few weeks. But this is how you can get him for cheap, and then you can figure out what they have there. And I do think that he's a talented young guy, but once again, that offense doesn't usually have a dominant wide receiver on there, but they drafted him for a reason, so it's worth finding out. In saying all that, those 3 guys, which one of those guys do you like the most as far as I'm going to throw him on my bench, and I think he might wield the most upside?
It's a tough one because before this week, I would have easily said Bateman, right? Toney, what I saw from him, I really liked. And I liked him before. I picked him up on a couple of my teams, and I probably dropped him by now, right? Because it just felt like nothing was happening. But I loved what I saw from him in that game. With that said, I'm still going to say Bateman, but it's barely. It's just because it's still the Giants. I still think there's so many for Toney. That is, there's still Sterling Shepard, there's still Darius Slayton, there's still Kenny Galladay. There's still a lot of guys there. I know Baltimore has some too, but I'm not as worried about the Bateman. Should be able to pass most of these guys right away. I feel like if he's what he should be. So it's still Bateman, but it's not by a lot. I really loved what I saw from Kadarius Toney as well.
Yeah, so. I did too. I think the way you're thinking about that is correct. Josh Gordon. What
he's interesting
about him, because I know that he's a Hail, and I said that. I know he's a Hail Mary.
Yeah, he's interesting though. I did pick him up in a league or two that has a deeper bench, just because why not? Let's see what this is, right? And you heard good things right away, but this guy was extremely talented, right? And he's still only 30 years old. He feels like he should be older than he is by this point.
The way he's built too, it's not like he was just a speedster and he might have lost that. He was a big guy, so they could use him. Once again, KC, the way they do that, Tyreek is number 1, Kelsey number 2, and then you fill in. But he could really be a weapon for them. But I have no idea what he's going to look like. Right now, it's just hearsay, and I can't really trust it. But your mind immediately goes back to Cleveland. How many years ago when he led the league? Was it 2013? Oh my gosh. Was it really that long ago now?
Yeah.
When he led the league in receiving, and he was just otherworldly. So you were like, oh man, if he's just even a shell of himself, he would be worth having.
He's definitely worth an ad just to take that chance, right? And I'll throw out one other name. We're recording this before the Monday night game, but don't know. Maybe he throws up zeros and nothing happens there. But Bryan Edwards is interesting to me yet. I've seen it's happened at the end of games a couple times where they needed some catches, and it seemed like Derek Carr was going to him. And again, it's not big numbers. He had 4 catches, 3 catches, and 3 catches, 5 targets, 3 targets, 5 targets. It's not been a lot, but it really feels like towards those end of the games when they're looking for Edwards, he looks really good. He looks like a player who can really break out. And I'm waiting for that and watching for that. So we'll see if he gets more looks. He needs more targets. That's clearly what he needs to see, but he's just one to think about and throw there at the end there. Just Bryan Edwards. He looks the part for me when he actually gets towards those end of the games. It doesn't happen a lot yet, but I've been very interested in him. We'll see what he does Monday night.
Yeah. I like his upside. There is one other One other individual I do want to throw out there and get your opinion on, because he has outperformed what we thought he was going to do so far, and that is Van Jefferson of the LA Rams. He had a really nice game, 6 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown. He had a touchdown in week 1. He's starting to get his targets up further and further. Do you think that he is worth anything at the moment? Because right now he's kind of turning into the number 2 wide receiver. I know Woods is there, but he's struggling. But Van Jefferson is finding a way to kind of implement himself in this offense. Do you think that he's worthy of a pickup?
Depends, I guess, on the size of your league. That's the only thing I'd say there. I'd still be hesitant because I still feel like Robert Woods should be ahead of him.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, he definitely is. Yeah.
And I'd be hesitant yet just because I feel like there's so much more. But that being said, if you see another week of it, definitely I'd go pick him up. I just probably wouldn't myself yet.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. You wonder about the amount of upside, right? And he seems like one of those that maybe you could throw in and kind of get some points, kind of like a Jamison Crowder to me. Just an unproven one. So, yeah.
All right, quarterback. Let's talk some streaming quarterbacks. I think there's definitely some people out there that have, shown themselves as a pretty good option here. So I'll go like 40% and under streaming quarterbacks. I'm probably going to say Sam Darnold's probably my top option. He's playing against Philadelphia. I've loved what I've seen from Darnold so far. He's getting touchdowns on the ground as well. So I think Darnold's a good play this week for you if you're really looking for an option. Daniel Jones at Dallas. That's a pretty decent. Dallas has been better on defense, but still Daniel Jones has been putting up numbers. I think that's another solid matchup there. Another solid play, Daniel Jones. And then Taylor Heineke playing against the Saints. So the Saints just gave up 400 yards to Daniel Jones. So those 3 right there, those are my top 3 probably to start us off. I mean, what are you thinking out of those 3? Who would you be playing? Darnold, Jones, Heineke?
Honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this. I don't have an issue with any 3 of them.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, I don't. But I would say that I think I would go Darnold, and then I would go Heineke, and then Daniel Jones. And I
think I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and I think it's because of the matchups. And right now, usually you're kind of like, oh, if they play a bad team, they're going to get it. But what we found is if they play a bad team, the quarterback isn't needed as much, and they start running it. It's kind of what happened to Daniel Jones. Even though he's had a great year so far, in week 3 he played Atlanta, and that was by far his worst week because they just didn't really need him. So, so that's how I would rank those 3 individuals. And people are going to wonder, where are you sliding in Trey Lance?
I'm not this week. He's down there for me.
I was going to say they're going to play at Arizona.
Yeah, so
they're
I'd still
have to put up points. That's my only issue.
Yeah,
is like
I just
whether
still
he throws 3 picks, can he get 3 touchdowns?
I mean, it's possible. I just don't want to take that chance. And I'd go Jameis next ahead of him yet. Jameis is playing against Washington, who has just been giving up points to quarterbacks. So Jameis would be ahead of him yet, at least at that point. So at least 4 guys ahead of him for sure. If you're looking at, this list, Trey becomes in there. It depends how risky you want to be, right? If you're willing to be real risky and you don't know what you're getting out of it, that's one thing, right? But it's a big risk to undertake. I feel like playing Trey Lance right away, and I'm not there. I can't do that right now.
Yeah, it's very fair, especially when you have to believe that one of those other 3 guys will be there for you.
Well, all right, let's move to defense. Let's see if we have any options here. We'll talk it out. See if you think you can find a play at 50% or under. Quarterback actually seems pretty easy this week, but here are the 50% and under defenses we got going. Panthers were a pretty solid defense, we thought. Dallas did well against them, but Panthers go against Philadelphia. Probably don't love that. Not with what you can see. I mean, you can see a scenario where they play well, right? And it goes well, but you can see a scenario where Jalen Hurts puts up some points on them. So probably going to avoid that.
I'm not loving that one. I would avoid it as well. Jalen Hurts has been good enough where I just feel like they're not going to be a low scoring team, even if I think that,
right.
Whether I think Panthers could win it or not.
Yep. So. Well, here we go. How about Cardinals, who've actually been a solid defense playing against San Francisco?
Yeah, I like that one a lot. And even if I think Trey Lance could could rush one in, could do something.
I could see 2 or 3 picks too.
Yeah, I could see some things really going down. And especially if he starts running, they're going to be trying to strip the ball. It gives them a lot of opportunity to create turnovers, which is really how you get points in fantasy. So I like that one a lot.
Yep. So that's probably my favorite option of these ones down the list a little bit. You have the matchup this week is the Falcons play the Jets, but you don't want to play the Falcons defense in any scenario. Even against the Jets, you don't want to play them. Packers playing against Cincinnati. Cincinnati could though put up points, so I don't feel very comfortable about it. Here we go. Vikings against Detroit. That's probably where you're looking. Detroit's they might put up points at the end, but they're definitely gonna have a turnover or two. Vikings have been okay. They're not a great defense, but they're good enough, and they held Cleveland only 14 points. So Vikings probably an okay option. I like the Bears played well against the Lions this past week, but they played at Las Vegas, who they can. I don't love that.
Yeah, they've been playing good football. I'd probably stay away from them compared to the other ones we talked about.
Yep,
I'm with you. Vikings are only owned in 16.7. I'd much rather play them.
Yep. But that's about it to me, because I'll say all the other possible options under 50% are not as great. Colts at Baltimore.
Yeah, that one's okay.
It's okay, but yeah, it's one of those
upside, but yeah, it was okay. Here the other one that's very interesting to me, and I really don't know how to, because I feel like New York, the Giants are kind of finding their stride, but Dallas somehow their defense fantasy wise has been okay. But they play New York Giants. They did okay against Carolina. They did well against Philly. They did okay against the Chargers, and even held their own against Tampa Bay. So is that one of those that you would consider as well?
Yeah, if you can't get some of the better options, I guess you probably could look that way. I don't love that either, but there's some. Yeah, maybe you were somebody that had Washington early on, and they've been just giving up points though. So you don't want to play somebody like that. So maybe you go to Dallas. Yeah, but there's definitely options out there. Not great options, but there's some that can just maybe some weeks you just don't want to be go negative, right? You just want to just keep it steady. So at least there's some options like that for you. But all right, there we go. Waiver wire week 5 already. Jeez, we're getting there, but we're still only about a third of the way through. So week 5 is coming up soon. So that'll be it for today. Talk to you guys next time.